The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
What's going on, guys? Welcome again to another episode of the Back Up to the Backup podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Nguyen. As always, thank you for stopping by. We appreciate you as always, whether you're listening on Spotify or watching on YouTube, Facebook, all the other socials that we go live on. We really appreciate it over here from me and Belly Up Sports as a whole. So thank you so much. And it's going to be a fun episode today. It's going to be mostly Giants dominate, a lot of news from the big blue side of things. I guess the topics are mostly on the good old G-men. So we'll get into that. And then some athletics news. The A's, they are playing at the moment as we're recording against the Detroit Tigers. Brent Rooker hit a home run. So that's a good sight to see from last year's All-Star representative for the Oakland Athletics. And we'll cover the A's and as they are moving to Sacramento, and we'll go from there. And then we will have, I guess, a little spoiler alert for those of you listening live. We have another live episode coming to you today at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time, 6:30 in the East. I'll be joined by Eric Katz, one of the best beat writers on the Belly Up Sports Network. He knows a lot about baseball, man. He's the guy. So I'll be talking to him about his Yankees and the baseball season as a whole, and we will go from there. But first off, I want to get our sponsor in here real quick. Our sponsor is SeatGeek, and if you haven't used SeatGeek before, they're a great website, great app to get your tickets for sporting events, concerts, and all of that. So let's hear from them real quick, and we'll get started with the rest of the show. Take it away.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, we can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. So remember, Belly Up Sports 20 for $20 off your next purchase on SeatGeek. Alrighty. So the first topic I want to discuss today is Michael Penix Jr. This guy is arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the draft. He's, in my opinion, the best pocket passer in the draft. I mean, this guy can sling it. He can sling it like no other. And I understand, the negatives about him, but let's start with the positives, right? This guy is 6'3". He's 213 pounds. He's a well-built quarterback. He's a lefty, which is pretty cool to see. You don't see a lot of left-handed quarterbacks that are stars out there. You could argue Tua Tagovailoa is a star somewhat. I know Dolphins would agree with that, but maybe not the rest of the NFL. But Penix, he's just a humble guy. And he played well the last couple of years at the University of Washington, especially last season when he carried them into the playoffs. Granted, he did have a pretty solid wide receiving core in Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk. And the running back he had in the backfield behind him, Dylan Johnson, is also in the draft this year. So those four guys were the key parts of the Huskies getting into the playoff. So Penix at Washington, he was in a air raid offense, which is I like air raid offenses. When you can sling it, baby. That's what matters. And Penix, he can sling it with the best of them. And if there's one word to describe Penix, it'll be that he can just sling the damn ball. Like it's not even funny how good he is. But the reason I bring it up today is because I was thinking about yesterday. I was thinking yesterday about him. I was thinking, especially for the Giants, right? We know they're going to get a quarterback. It's just a matter of who. Are they going to trade up? Are they going to trade down? It mostly depends, obviously, on how the first three picks are going to go. We know that Caleb Williams is going number one. Number two is, as crazy as it sounds, a big toss-up because is it going to be Jaden Daniels? Is it going to be Drake May, who has been the main guy at number two? Or is it going to be JJ McCarthy, who's been, his stock has been climbing up the ranks And like you mentioned before in previous episodes, that's all thanks to, NFL coaches like Antonio Pierce or Jim Harbaugh, or just scouts as a whole saying, "Oh, McCarthy is better than we think he is," and that's fine. That's fine because if McCarthy does go in the top 3, right, that opens up so many opportunities for the Giants to say, okay, maybe at 6 we don't have to trade up. That maybe as long as the teams ahead of us at 4 and 5 in Arizona and the Chargers, as long as they don't trade with anyone, the Giants will be in good shape, which is cool. However, here's the thing: the Giants at 6. Not only will there be a quarterback available, but there's also going to be wide receivers available too. And there's just so many things to consider because the Giants just have so many holes at so many different positions. It's like if you get a quarterback in the first round, second round, you're not going to get that type of caliber receiver, say like a Romo Dunze. Of course, in the second round, there's guys like Troy Franklin, Xavier Legette, maybe not Xavier Worthy, but just guys like that. There's obviously different levels between a Romo Dunze and a Marvin Harrison Jr. compared to a Troy Franklin and Jalen Polk, for example. We'll just add them in there. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting, receiver in round 2. I'm just saying there's different levels in terms of, because there's obviously the best of the best in Marvin Harrison Jr. There's the elite, and then there's the mid tier. That's what I'm trying to say. Point is, look, the Giants, if I'm the Giants and the opportunity's there, I want to go get Michael Penix Jr. And I came up with a couple of different scenarios as to when is the earliest they should get him and the latest they should get him. Because there's just so many things to consider in terms of the teams ahead of them. In terms of after 6, because they don't pick again until the second round. They don't have 2 first-round picks. They don't have the luxury that a Minnesota Vikings teams have with 2 first-round picks and whatnot, right? And especially the Giants have to consider the teams behind them as well after 6, because you have the Denver Broncos, you have the Las Vegas Raiders who could get a quarterback too in the first round. I was speaking with my coworkers from Belly Up Sports. They were saying it's realistic that Michael Penix could go in the first round, and that all 6 quarterbacks could go in the first round. Like I'm talking Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, JJ McCarthy, not in this order obviously, McCarthy and Penix. They could all go in the first round because of just how not only quarterback needy teams are, but it's just the class of quarterbacks this year. It's just so intriguing, especially with the top 3 in Williams, May, and Daniels, and this the how I say it, the what's the word that I can't even think, potential that a McCarthy and a Penix and Nix have, especially Bo Nix, but he's a very intriguing guy because he was, I think, the best passer last year in college football. I mean, he only threw like 3 interceptions, had like 45 touchdowns at like a number 1 completion percentage, but he was really good. But if I'm honest with you, I like Michael Penix. I really do. He's just a different quarterback. He's a left pocket passer quarterback, but he could throw the deep ball with a beauty, has zip on his throws, and it's just there's so many things I love about him. I really do think the Giants could really use a guy like this at quarterback, and he can be the franchise guy. Let's not even think about the offensive line for a second, because I get it. The blind side will be Evan Neal's responsibility instead of Andrew Thomas's, and there's no way they're going to switch Thomas to the right side, obviously. But at the same time, this is the chance for the Giants to say, hey, if we're going to draft Michael Penix Jr., we have to trust our right tackle to do his job. Is it going to be Evan Neal? Is it going to be Germinaro? I don't know, but we'll have to see. So here's the thing. Let's start with the earliest, because when it comes to the earliest time to draft Michael Penix, there's one spot the Giants need there's one team the Giants need to trade up with. And I want to start with that scenario, and we'll start with the latest that they can go get Penix. Sounds good? Sounds good. So the earliest, in my opinion, that the Giants should go to go get Penix is number 11, the 11th overall pick. Now the Giants are at 6, and for both the earliest and the latest they can get Penix, I did not do any trade downs or trade up. Well, so I didn't trade down or anything like that. I stuck with having the 6th overall pick, and I figured it out from there. So in this mock draft, you can ignore this part if you want. In round 1, pick 6, I got Marvin Harrison Jr. Apparently, Neighbors and Odunze went ahead of Harrison, which is kind of weird, but not as surprising, as a lot of people know that Harrison didn't participate in the pro day or the combine, which is a bit questioning myself, but he's going in the top 10. It's just he fell to the Giants. So the Giants would be happy with that, right? I mean, a lot of fans would be if Harrison Jr. fell to number 6 for the Giants. So here's the thing, though. Michael Penix, right? I said the earliest the Giants could get him is number 11. And I was thinking, okay, you have Denver at 12, and you have the Raiders at 13. I know the Vikings need a quarterback. What do we do? And I want to be honest with you. I ran through this through the Pro Football Focus mock draft a few times. I did this trade a few times to make sure that I'm not tripping and that I'm not lying to you guys when I'm saying this trade went through. I traded our first round pick in 2025 and Daniel Jones for pick 11, and they said yes. Now I understand the whole dead cap situation, and it's still gonna be a lot of money the Giants will have. Look, you get rid of Jones, the whole Giants fan base is gonna go nuts. Like the fact that we got rid of him to get another first round pick in the draft, if this scenario went through, you gotta admit it's a win for both sides. And it's clear Jones needs a change of scenery. The Giants pretty much gave up on him. No matter what Joe Shane and Brian Dable would say, they have given up on Daniel Jones, and that's fine. They want their own guy. It's been noticeable that they want their own guy. They've been meeting up with quarterbacks. They've been working out with quarterbacks. They have private visits with guys, including Drake May. I think it's his 3rd visit, by the way, with Drake May. But that's off topic. But they're meeting with quarterbacks consistently because they want their guy. And Daniel Jones isn't that guy. No, as much as people like myself want to believe that, as we believe for a couple of years now, it's not going to happen. And that's unfortunate, obviously, because you wasted a first-round pick on him in 2019. But at the same time, hey, you live and you learn. And for the Giants, if you're able to get a first-round pick in this year's draft and you get rid of Jones's contract somewhat, and you get it first, and all you're trading away is just next year's first-round pick, that could work out if the Giants play well in 2024. And that's exactly what I think they will do if they do this trade, because at number 11, they will select Michael Penix Jr. at the 11th overall pick. Yes, ahead of Bo Nix. And I believe, I think McCarthy went, I'm not sure, as the phone is ringing in the background. We're just going to let that wait here. 1 second here. Perfect. Okay. So, Michael Penix is going 11 to us, to the Giants. Like, I really see that, because I just, you can't risk it. Because here's the thing. The reason why number 11 is the earliest the Giants should go get him is because, Penix has met with the Denver Broncos, and they have the 12th overall pick. Yes, I do think they're likely going to go Bo Nix, but at the same time, I don't want to risk it. I want to get Penix, and that way Denver, it kind of forces Denver to say, okay, if we don't get Bo Nix now, we may not get him later. Let's get Bo Nix at 12 and call it a day. Also, what scares me is the 13th overall pick with the Las Vegas Raiders. They have met with Michael Penix as well. They need a quarterback, even though they do have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Are they going to be able to trade up? I really don't know. But even with that, at 13, if we don't get Penix at 11, they might even get the Washington quarterback after. If the Raiders are kind of dependent on what the Broncos do as well. And let's say the Giants didn't trade for the 11th overall pick, right? Let's say, okay, the Broncos get Bo Nix. Does that leave the Raiders with with Michael Penix? Likely, if the Giants don't, make this trade at number 11. And Michael Penix said it himself when he met with the Raiders. He met with the team. He felt the organization was doing great things. He talked about Coach Antonio Pierce and how he likes what's going on in Vegas. And there's nothing wrong with the Raiders. They're doing the due diligence. I don't mind them doing so. I mean, why would I mind in the first place? I'm just a podcaster. No, but I'm saying is I'm scared because if it's Denver and the Raiders, they both need a quarterback, more specifically Denver, because there's no way you go in the next season with Jarrett Stidham. And the Raiders, yes, with O'Connell and Minshew, if they can't trade up to go get Jaden Daniels, which is pretty much a lot of Raiders fans want that to happen, it's not going to happen. It's likely not going to happen unless they do a crazy trade to jump up to, at worst, the 4th overall pick. That's at worst. Because, like I said, this draft is just so crazy to the point where it's like if JJ McCarthy does go number 2 to the Washington Commanders, then it opens up number 3, number 4, and that depends on, okay, that means Jaden Daniels and Drake May are going to be there, and that just messes up everything else. So, and it's not just the Broncos and the Raiders that scares me. It's the Saints at 14. I was someone from Belly Up Sports was saying in the chat or in our work group chat yesterday, saying, okay, the Saints might be an option because they're at 14. They want to get rid of they have to deal with Derek Carr's contract, but at least they have a rookie quarterback that they can depend on and just kind of get rid of the Derek Carr experiment as a whole. That's not working out. That could be an option, and getting a quarterback on a rookie deal isn't the worst idea. For example, CJ Stroud with the Texans. Look how that's working out. There's a Seattle Seahawks at number 16. The offensive coordinator for the Seahawks now was the OC back at Washington, who played there? Michael Penix Jr. So that could be an option at 16. So there's just so many different scenarios to consider. That's why I think the Giants should climb up to 11 or draft or trade up to the 11th overall pick without getting rid of any of this year's draft capital, and just banking on the fact that if you get a Michael Penix Jr., you pair him up with, in this particular mock draft, Marvin Harrison Jr., you consider all the other weapons the Giants have at wideout, Wan'Dale Robinson, Jalen Hyatt, who will actually have a quarterback that will give him the football, depending on how Darren Waller's situation is. And I guess spoiler alert for the rest of this mock draft that I had for the Giants trading up to number 11, I did end up getting Jalen Polk of the Washington Huskies. So at least Penix will have a teammate that he's used to playing with at wide receiver. So you have Marvin Harrison Jr., you have Jalen Polk, you have Wan'Dale Robinson, and then you have Jalen Hyatt. Is it too many wide receivers? Sort of, but at the same time, this Giants team, they need weapons. You don't have Saquon Barkley anymore. We don't know what's going on with Darren Waller. You might as well get as many weapons as you can, especially if you team up Penix with his teammate back at Washington. So I did want to get Rome Odunze though at pick number 6, but he, like I just mentioned, went ahead at either number 4 or number 5. I don't remember the exact result, but at least Marvin Harrison isn't a consolation prize. Like at least he felt you're getting an all-pro caliber wide receiver that's gonna be in the NFL for a really long time in Harrison Jr. So, but yeah, that's what I have. Oh yes, and this is kind of a fun mock draft for me because I was able to get Marvin Harrison, I was able to get Michael Penix at number 11, I was able to get Penix's teammate Jalen Polk, and in the 5th round, I was also able to get Penix's other teammate at running back in Dylan Johnson. So it's kind of a Washington dominated draft, I would say, for the Giants. And why not, right? You get your quarterback of the future, and why not team him up with teammates that he's familiar with? It just makes transitioning to the NFL even easier. And that's why I did this particular mock draft. And by the way, the whole mock draft I did was an A-. So Pro Football Focus got my back. But yeah, that's so in summary, the Giants, the earliest they should go get Penix, Michael, 11 as the 11th overall pick is the earliest they should go get Penix, because I'm just scared of the Broncos and the Raiders at 12 and 13 respectively, plus the other dark horses in the Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, of course, the more likely scenario is that Michael Penix drops to the 2nd round. And that's because you have to consider his injury history, 2 torn ACLs in his career, his age, he's going to be 24 years old. That's an outlier. Oh, if you consider the age and the injury history, they're both outliers compared to the other quarterbacks. I know Bo Nix is a bit older as well. He's been in college for quite a while now. He was in college for a while. But, compared to the guys like Caleb Williams and Drake May, Jaden Daniels, JJ McCarthy, those guys are a bit younger compared to Bo Nix and especially Michael Penix. And that's why teams are kind of scared of this whole situation with Penix. And Matt Miller, he's an NFL draft scout. And he talked about how Penix is, quote, a guy with the biggest variation between the public and the teams. And that he hasn't talked to any team that said, hey, we have to go get Penix in the first round. So that's kind of a good thing for the Giants, right? Because that doesn't require you to have to trade up back to the first round to get your quarterback of the future if they do like Michael Penix. But at the same time, you can't just say, oh, we're gonna stay at the 47th overall pick, which is what the Giants have. They did trade their other second round pick to the Carolina Panthers earlier this offseason for Brian Burns, which is a trade I absolutely love. You get another pass rusher opposite of Kayvon Thibodeau. Those two are going to be hopefully one of the best duos in the NFL this upcoming season. But I digress. So in this mock draft, okay, the latest the Giants can get Michael Penix, and yes, I do have them trading up, but not too much, is pick number 43. And you may have guessed it, it's the Raiders at 44 that scare me, because here's the thing. In this particular mock draft, in terms of this scenario, the Raiders do not go quarterback in the first round. Just like the Giants at number 6, they do not go quarterback at all. I think the Raiders get either a corner or a defensive end, an edge rusher, one or the other. I don't remember exactly, but I know they didn't get quarterback. Or they don't go, but yeah, they didn't go quarterback. But Penix was on the board at the 43rd overall pick. And that's where Atlanta was choosing, right? And according to, well, let's face it, even though they do have a Drake London over there and they have Kyle Pitts and whatnot in Atlanta, Kirk Cousins could use another weapon on the outside. And in this mock draft, the Giants, they drafted Malik Nabers. So the receiving room would be Nabers, Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson in this scenario, and Isaiah McKenzie from that, factor him in too with the Giants on this past offseason. As much as I didn't want to do it, I just, in this scenario, felt like, okay, maybe we should allow the Wan'Dale Robinsons and the Jalen Hyatts of the team to go get more playing time because they're still young, because they have untapped potential. So I did trade up to 43, but in exchange, I gave the Falcons the 47th overall pick, so which we would have chosen originally, and Darius Slayton. And yes, I ran this back a few times with the Pro Football Focus mock draft simulator, and the trade was accepted. So the Giants jump up 4 spots. Yes, they lose their number 1 receiver for the past, or for 4 of the past 5 years. But, out with the old, in with the new was what I was trying to get at here. And I love Darius Slayton. I really do. He's been productive. He's gone through a lot with the Giants, whether it's being benched in week 1 at a certain point in time to showing out still and putting on a good performance. I love Darius Slayton, but at the same time, if you're drafting a receiver in the first round, you drafted Wan'Dale Robinson in the second round. He's going to be the slot guy. You still, if you believe in Jalen Hyatt, who's going to be a deep threat on the outside, there's really no room for Darius Slayton to still get playing time, as long as you hope that you can develop the Wan'Dales and the Jalen's of the team. So I just felt like Darius Slayton wasn't really needed anymore in this scenario. So he was sent to Atlanta. So, I mean, he'll have fun there and with the Falcons. I mean, he'll have Kirk Cousins and Drake London. London and Slayton will be a good 1-2 punch over there. And hey, that's good for them. And at least we get to jump up to 43. And this is where we go get Michael Penix Jr., which, by the way, Pro Football Focus says they grade me getting Penix at 43 and A compared to what they graded me to get him in the first round. with the other scenario, which is they give me like a D- for that. But anyways, but yeah, so the Giants do get Michael Penix at 43, and the Raiders, I don't know if they went quarterback afterwards in terms of getting like a Spencer Rattler or Michael Pratt, but at the end of the day, the important thing is that the Giants were able to get ahead of the Raiders in the second round. So yeah, the Raiders are just a threat for the Giants right now, and whether it's the earliest scenario of getting Michael Penix or it's the latest that you can get Michael Penix. And I hope that wasn't too confusing for you. But the point is, this draft is crazy. It really is, to the point where, that you have to get your guy now. That's the main thing about this Giants team, is you have to get your quarterback in this year's draft, because if you don't, do you really want to wait till next year and give yourself another run with Daniel Jones, when it's like he's coming off another injury-riddled season? He had the neck injury against Miami last year, and then he had the ACL injury against the Raiders, of all teams. And it's like, okay, yes, you signed Drew Lock, but yeah, put Drew Lock as a backup for a reason. And yeah, he did play well against the Giants at certain times when he came in during the Seattle Giants game. Yes, Drew Lock did beat the Eagles at some point in time, which is what Daniel Jones couldn't do. But this is the year. You have 6 quarterbacks on that board. 3 of them are going to be gone by the time you get to number 6. Will you trade up, or will you wait till the second round and then trade up from there? And this is where I bring the third scenario, because I did do another mock draft where I did not trade up at all. I left everything the way it was. No trade ups, no trade downs whatsoever. And fortunately, in this one, the Giants were able to draft Michael Penix at the 47th overall pick. I don't know who the Raiders selected at 44, but at least in the third scenario, Penix did fall to the Giants at 47. And yes, I was able to pair up Jalen Polk once again with Michael Penix in round 3. Just a little something I wanted to bring out there, but yeah. So, obviously there's going to be more mock drafts released by me for the Giants as the days and weeks go by until the draft officially starts. But I think, in summary, just to end this particular topic as a whole, I really do like Michael Penix Jr. I mean, he's just a great pocket passer. He can really sling it. And of course, there's some flaws to his game. Maybe calming down on the zip of his throws, or, attacking the middle of the field needs to be worked on a little bit more, because he's good at throwing, outside the numbers. It's just working towards the middle of the field. And can he do that consistently? That's something he does need to work on. I think footwork wise, he's not the best scrambling quarterback, but he can, get you some yards if needed. So, in summary, we talked about the earliest you can go get him. If you're the Giants, the latest you can get him. And even if you waited at 47, there's a chance, but do you want to take that risk? I honestly, if I had to choose between the earliest and the latest, I would probably go with the latest to get Michael Penix. As Kevin Wilson says here, what's up, Kevin? He says, Penix to the Seahawks is a match, in your opinion? Yeah. We talked about it with the earlier scenario, right? We said that with Penix, you have the offensive coordinator who you worked with back at Washington. He joined the Seahawks this past offseason as the offensive coordinator. So that's a perfect fit there if you were to do that. So, well, more specifically, that this is why the Giants trading up is it's necessary. And that's why I wouldn't mind trading up for him, because at least in this particular trade where I'm trading Daniel Jones and next year's first round pick, I'm not, I'm losing my quarterback in Jones, but at least I'm getting rid of his contract. And that way the Giants, if I'm Joe Shane, at least I can feel better knowing, okay, we got rid of the old regime and our fan base is going to be happy knowing we got rid of the old guy. Now we bring in this new, exciting prospect in Penix, and we can all, sing hallelujah and call it a day. So, whether the Giants trade up, whether they trade down, or not trade down, whether they trade up in the second round or whether they wait, we'll just have to see. But in terms of, it does help that as much as I hate to say it, it does help that Penix's injury history and his age factors a role in all this. But you have to really consider, are you willing to wait? Because if you wait, he might be gone by the time you pick up 47. And then you're stuck with, for the Giants, you'll be stuck with, okay, do we go get Spencer Rattler? Do we go get Michael Pratt? Do we wait until the 5th, 6th round to get Joe Milton III, who has a great arm, but he has a lot of limitations that he needs to work on before he can even become a starter in the NFL? We really don't know. And even if Bo Nix falls to the 2nd round, which he's not going to likely because Denver's likely going to get him at like 12, this has to be the year you get a quarterback. Because if you don't, as a lot of Giants fans and NFL fans, even the average NFL fan knows, the Giants cannot go into 2024 with Daniel Jones under center. And if you risk Jones getting hurt again, do you really trust Drew Lock? Do you want to go through the whole Tommy DeVito experiment again? Because Tyrod Taylor's not here anymore. He went to the Jets. So it's either going to be Jones, Lock, or DeVito if you do not get a quarterback in this year's draft. Then there's a fourth scenario. There's a fourth scenario in that the Giants could go get a Josh Allen, which is the likelihood of this happening is very, very, very low. Because, yes, I understand the Buffalo Bills did trade Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans a couple of days ago. Good for the Texans, by the way, because they did a lot of work with Diggs' contract in that they removed the final 3 years of his contract. This upcoming season will be his last year on his on that contract that he signed with Buffalo, the extension to be exact, by the way. So it's basically an incentive for Diggs to play well, because if it works out, if Diggs plays well, if there's no issues with the Texans, maybe they'll bring him back. If he goes into free agency next season, the Texans get a compensatory conditional pick, whatever you want to call it. Anyways, the point is Diggs is gone. That was kind of surprising, sort of. But then consider the fact that Diggs didn't really have the best relationship in Buffalo at times, arguing with his teammates or whatever the case may be. Issues with Josh Allen at times. So it was not really surprising to see Diggs go. Anyways, there's a crazy trade that was brought up to it's like a draft day trade where the Giants get a Josh Allen and the Bills get Daniel Jones, the 6th overall pick, a 2025 first round pick, a 2026 second round pick, and a 2024 third round pick as well. The reasoning behind this trade was because they kind of did this trade similar to the whole Matthew Stafford trade, where the Rams traded him to the Lions. The Lions traded Matthew Stafford to the Rams for Jared Goff. And obviously we know how that worked out. The Rams would end up winning a Super Bowl led by Matthew Stafford. Great, good for him, by the way. So in this trade, yes, the Bills got the 6th overall pick. Yes, they lose their franchise guy who they just signed to the extension not too long ago, but at the same time, you have a 6th overall pick. You have leverage. If you're Buffalo, you have leverage in that you can do whatever you want to do. You can go get a quarterback. You can get yourself a top-tier wide receiver. You can trade down. You can do all these sorts of things. Yes, you lose your guy, but at least you get something good back. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything. This is just the facts. I'm not trying to say, okay, Buffalo, you should do this trade, not because it benefits the Giants, but it benefits you too. I'm just saying this is the facts. You get the 6th overall pick. You're either going to get a top-tier wide receiver, or you can get yourself a quarterback if you so choose. And the Bills, they still get to keep the 28th overall pick, right? They still get to keep that. So not only do you have 2 first-round picks, you can get yourself a wide receiver at number 6, and you can get yourself a quarterback at number 28. I'm just saying, if Buffalo will do that, that's why they would do so. Now for the Giants, yes, you get your franchise guy at quarterback. You don't have your first-round pick, which in this year's draft, which means that in that second round at pick 47, you got to get yourself a wide receiver. Most likely you get yourself a wide receiver because, yes, you're going to have Josh Allen, but he's going to be playing with Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson, which if you really want to do it, it's comparable to what he's dealing with that Buffalo right now with Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, and Matt Collins. Those 2 wide receiver rooms, believe it or not, are very, very similar in terms of talent at the moment. So if the Giants do this trade with the Bills, and I'm just saying if it does happen, I'm not advocating for it. I don't mind the trade. I really don't. You're giving up a lot, but for a guy like Josh Allen, it requires a lot. I'm just saying, if you do it, you better get yourself a wide receiver in the second round. And that could be a Keon Coleman. It could be a Troy Franklin. It could be Xavier Legette. It could be Malachi Corley if he's that good. But Corley is likely going to go in the third round, so maybe that's pushing it too much. But you have to get yourself a wide receiver number one. Because not only does Josh Allen deserves that, we've seen what he is without Stephon Diggs, and he is pretty bad statistically because it took until Diggs' arrival in Buffalo for Josh Allen to be the quarterback that he is right now. That's just the facts. That's what the numbers say. We've seen it on film. He needs a number one guy, and you cannot go to next season if Josh Allen is your quarterback for the Giants with Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, and Wan'Dale Robinson. You need that one main guy. You need that one guy. By the way, the Giants, did you know, would save $36 million in cap space and take a dead cap of just $11 million if they traded Daniel Jones after June 1st? Just saying. Not that they're going to. Because either they trade Jones at the draft, before or at the draft, or they just keep him and then release him next year and just eat up the money. Anyways. Ooh, that was crazy. We went through like 4 scenarios with quarterbacks, but this is a very quarterback-dominated episode, especially for the Giants, because they need one. A's are losing 5-4, by the way, at the moment. Anyways, a couple other Giants headlines, some interesting headlines. Joe Judge, the former Giants head coach himself, goes to Ole Miss. He's going to be joining Lane Kiffin there with the Rebels as a senior analyst. The team just went 11-2 last season, so hopefully the bad luck that is Joe Judge does not mess things up over there for the Rebels in the SEC. Once again, no update on Darren Waller. That's frustrating. He was working out with a couple prospects in this draft, including Kate Stover from Ohio State, Jatavion Sanders from Texas. They were all working out in Las Vegas, but according to an interview that he did with Icy Hot, or an interview on behalf of Icy Hot, there has been no decision yet, unfortunately, and he's respecting the process. So that means that if he does retire, the Giants may need to go look into the tight end prospect in the draft this year as well. Today, big news: the Giants bringing back Isaiah Simmons, who, as we all know, the Giants traded for him for just a 7th rounder in this year's draft before the season started this year. He played pretty well. Had 50 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, an interception against the Commanders. That was a pick 6. He had a 68.9 Pro Football Focus grade, which is pretty average and close to above average. Had one of the best coverage grades for linebackers out there with an 82.7. I'm very interested to see if the Giants put him at safety because of the lack of depth. And I know the linebacker room is pretty solid in itself with Bobby Okereke and Michael McFadden. And then you have the 2 edge guys in Azeez Ojulari, but also the main starters in Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau. So I'm interested to see if they might put Simmons at safety, which he's played before in the past. And concerning his coverage grade, he is pretty good. And you lose Xavier McKinney, but you do have Dane Belton still. And yes, you signed Jalen Mills, but do you really trust Jalen Mills back there? Yeah and no. And Simmons played pretty well to the point where he deserves to be on that field as much as possible. So I'm just saying, you might as well put Simmons back there at safety and give it a try in this new Shane Bowen defense, which is very similar to Martindale's, but also completely different. And that Shane Bowen does not blitz as much as Martindale does with his exotic blitzes and whatever the case may be. I think what's his name? Martindale. He's at Michigan. I forgot. But anyways. The Giants also signed a running back today by the name of Dante Miller. Interesting story. He has never played in the NFL. Well, that's not too surprising. But here's the thing. He played at Columbia University, which I never heard or knew they had a football team. He ran for 1,703 yards, had 25 touchdowns, and 217 carries. That can't be just in one season, right? I'm not exactly. I gotta look that up. But those were his statistics once upon a time. He lost his season due to COVID. So he had just 1 year of eligibility left when he was done at Columbia. He went to South Carolina for that last season. But here's the crazy part. The school compliance department made a mistake, which ended his 2022 season. And because of this mistake, also forced him to sit out the 2023 season. He just ran the pro day this past year. and he ran a 4.27. But then he learned that he wasn't eligible for this year's draft because he should have been in the 2023 one because of this whole mistake thing by the school. So he was actually a free agent. And at the end of the day, he worked out with the Giants recently, and he was signed with them after this workout. The Giants are very impressed. So they have another running back to add to the running back room. So it's now Devin Singletary, Eric Gray, Gary Brightwell, Deion Jackson still on the roster for some reason, and you add in Dante Miller. So this kind of is like where the Giants may not need to draft a running back, but yeah, I do think they will draft one because there's some talented guys out there. Plus, the Giants have heavy interest in Trey Benson, according to reports. The running back from Florida State. He's a good one. Is Benson? No, Trey Benson is Boston. No. I'm pretty sure he's Florida State. Let me double check as we about to shift. I'm going to say Florida State. What's it? Yes. Florida State Seminoles. He's a good one. He's a good one. I like him a lot, too, for the Giants. So, if they decide to go that route, cool. I understand, signing a running back at 5 running backs on the roster now. Is drafting a new one worth it? Maybe. And final talk with the topic of the day. Like I mentioned, I have another episode coming up to you today as well with Eric Katz, one of the baseball beat writers for Belly Up Sports. We'll be going live at 3:30 on the Pacific time, so we got a few hours now. So I'm gonna record this, get out to you, take a couple hours of break, and then get back live with you all. So watch out for that one today. But big news coming from baseball: the Oakland Athletics are moving to Sacramento. And as we discussed before, the 8th lease with the city of Oakland and the Coliseum is set to expire at the end of this season. The city was like, hey, we will give you a 5-year extension. A's said no. This whole going to Sacramento thing, there's a few things to factor in. You have to consider the broadcasting revenue that the A's wanted to retain, that they may have not been able to retain if they went to, say, a Salt Lake City or whatnot for the next 3 years before going to Vegas. That's why the A's said, okay, let's go to Sacramento, because we still get to keep some of the revenue we get from the broadcasting deal, but it's just not the whole thing. But at least we get something. Something's better than nothing. The A's do not intend to change their name to reflect their Sacramento residency, so they'll be just called the Sacramento A's, so not the Athletics, none of that stuff. It's going to be the Sacramento A's. And the issue with this is that they will be playing at Sutter Health Park, which is pretty cool, except the fact that the whole Sutter Health Park seats only like 14,000 people. The Coliseum seats like 40 to 50, up to 60,000 people once upon a time. And the worst thing is the Sutter Health Park, a team already plays there, the Sacramento River Cats, which is the SF Giants AAA affiliate. So these next 3 seasons, both of those teams are going to be sharing a stadium. And matter of fact, the River Cats may be playing at the Coliseum, possibly, or they may be at times playing at Oracle Park. So that's going to be a mess in itself. So shout out to the A's for messing everything up with baseball. According to the press release of this whole A's going to Sacramento, they say that fans will still get to enjoy the tradition of minor league baseball and the Sacramento River Cats, which means the ballpark will likely host 156 games. So that means 81 MLB games, so 81 A's home games, and 75 minor league games, so the River Cats games, between late March and early October. In terms of the whole Vegas thing, there's no construction at all. Nothing has begun at all. The Nevada Supreme Court will hear an argument, according to reports on the Political Action Committee, Schools Over Stadium on April 9th, that will impact those plans. So if things go to shit, the A's could be playing in Sacramento for quite a while. Casey Pratt of ABC 7 Bay Area also reports the A's plan to use staff that's already in place for other teams in Sacramento, including the Kings and the River Cats. So that means the current A's employees at the Coliseum may be fired. And that's the sad thing, because not only are you moving the team, you are also costing people jobs. So John Fisher, that is why you are a a-hole, because you are taking away people's jobs, and yeah, you're just selfish. You and Dave Calvo are 2 of the most arrogant people in the sporting world and just this world as a whole. They're calling for your heads. People are calling for your heads. and yet you do not care because you're rich and entitled. You're lucky your parents own Gap. That's all I'm going to say, John Fisher. You're lucky your parents own Gap, because if it wasn't for that, you would not be where you're at right now. So talk about, how do I say this? Just being dependent on your parents in a way. Just your success was just because your parents and your family own Gap, and you just feel so entitled to keep so much of this money that you don't even care about others. You don't care about the city, who offered you a deal to stay at a big league ballpark. You said no. You're taking away another team that is the only team in Oakland. The Warriors are gone. The Raiders left. And it was just you. And fans tried to convince you that they love this team. And you still do not give a care in the world. And you take this team to Sacramento, where you're going to play in a ballpark that seats 14,000 at max. How is that enjoyable? And yet, when players get called up to the major leagues, they get to play in big cities, in a city environment. And not just that, but like a big stadium that could seat a lot of people. Yet, when guys get called up from Vegas, that's where the Aviators, the AAA team, plays. They're going from one minor league park to another one. So where's the fun? Where's the experience in that? The reason why I became an A's fan was because a good friend of mine took me to a game for the first time a couple years ago. It was A's and the White Sox, September in 2022. Yes, the A's lost, but it was an experience I will never forget, because that was my second ever sporting event that I ever went to in my life, my first baseball game ever. And since then, I've been hooked. And I was fortunate enough to see the A's win for the first time on opening day last year against the Angels. And I'll always remember that day too. Kyle Miller on the mound versus Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani went 6-7 innings strong. Kyle Miller played pretty well, only allowed 1 run. Tony Kemp, Esteury Ruiz, Aledmus Diaz were the heroes in that game. A's would win 2-1. Denny Jimenez, I believe, got the save. If there's anything I got wrong there, it was the person who got the save, but I got most of it right. And the attendance was crazy. It's like 30,000. The lines were long for everything. I remember missing like the 6th inning because I was going to get food at the Coliseum. By the way, fans were nice. The fans are nice people. And the staff there too, very accommodating. And I remember sitting, it was section 136 in the outfield. And it's sad because, this team has been in Oakland for quite a while. And now, because of an owner that does not give a care about anyone except himself, they're going to a city that says they want them. But do they really? Sometimes money wins, man. Fans don't matter anymore. As much as fans want to show they still care, as much as fans want to say, oh yeah, the A's are my team, they've been my team for years. Parents who have raised their kids to be A's fans, what are they going to do now? How do they explain that to them? Oh yeah, they're not the Oakland A's anymore, they're the Sacramento A's. What? Yeah, in a few years they're going to be the Las Vegas A's. So, yeah, I just feel bad for a lot of the employees that work for the A's right now at the Coliseum, because they're going to be laid off. And they lost their job, and not because it's not because of them, but because they're moving to a new city. But as we're recording this, we will talk to Eric more about this later on in a few hours. But yeah. But shout out to Oakland. They really tried their best. They really did. To keep the A's in Oakland for not just the next 3 years, but for the foreseeable future. They tried their best. Shout out to the mayor, Sheng Tao. But at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. And that's the sad part about it. So I went for 50 minutes. That Michael Penix segment did take a while. But this A's one, it hits the heart. Because even being a fan for just a few years, I've watched them a lot, grown a connection with them. When I get accustomed to a team, I tend to know their roster pretty fast. And even though the A's did bring in a lot of new players here and there, I knew them at least. Not obviously know them, but just recognize who they were and some information about them at least. So I'll do it for this one. Yeah, so watch out for a new episode coming out in a few hours. Eric Katz will be joining us live to talk about some baseball talk around 3:30 Pacific time, so 6:30 in the East Coast. So yeah, watch out for that. So, and this, of course, will be on Spotify. All of our episodes will be on Spotify. And whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, X, Twitter, all that stuff, thank you so much. Shout out to our sponsor, SeatGeek. Shout out to Belly Up Sports always. Follow me on Twitter at Nathan_Nguyen24. My co-host Brian will be back likely next week. He's working on some stuff for his school, graduating. I think he's graduating. So shout out to him, man. I didn't even know about that. So, we'll talk to him hopefully next week and see where we go from there. And until then, thank you for watching and listening. And remember, it's okay to be the starter. It's okay to be the backup. Just do not ever be the backup to the backup like yours was, or like yours truly was once upon a time. Have a good one. Thank you very much.